Yo yo how's it going? So I'm doing these videos again, man, and it's heavy good. I heavy enjoy making them. I made another one the other day and it's not out yet, but I'm glad to be back and about it. So I put up a video about the Kingston DIY, so if you haven't checked that, go and check it. It's just a wee short one, but actually today somebody commented on it saying you need to check out the Archie's DIY, and I was like, don't worry, man, like that's been on the cards for ages. I actually researched this ages ago and just never did it, man. The weather just got a bit crap, so I'm gonna do it today, but it's just a bit mad because it's actually huge and there's just like, I reckon it's going to be at least an hour long, so just be prepared. You might need to watch it in a few sittings or whatever, but there is actually just so much to talk about here, which is amazing. So I'm just going to get started with like the outside, I guess, because that's like, I'm here, so I may as well just kind of document a wee bit of what's happening outside. So this is kind of the outer wall, and I'm going to come back a wee bit because I just saw that there's a photo kind of from this angle, and so I actually kind of mind what it used to be, but it's like an old kind of factory or something like that. And then there's all sorts. I'm making a walking tour video.
Oh yeah?
Aye.
You want to do the way?
No, it's fine, man. It's actually kind of good that it's all kind of like, it's to document what it's like just now, basically.
Aye.
Because it always keeps changing.
What, shambles?
But aye, so there's like loads of construction stuff happening here, which I don't really know. I think they're building something around there and they're just dumping it in here. But again, it's quite interesting because I said in a previous video about graffiti writers being able to just kind of find these spaces, do you know what I mean? And so in Glasgow, actually, it's quite funny because this space is now just covered and it's used by everybody, basically. So, but actually I would say the people that kept finding spots like these were the easy riders, like the ER crew. They were just finding everywhere, basically. Like, there's certain other people who would definitely go and find their own spots, but I think I need to big them up, basically, because I know for a fact that like a lot of these spots, they were the first people to ever paint them. And so I've got some old pictures that I'm going to show you throughout this, and you'll realise they were probably some of the first people to do it. So I was just reading there that this actually started off as so I was just saying this project actually started off as a space called the Walled Garden, which was a stalled space. So the council basically called it the stalled space. I'm just going to show you this gate quickly and then I can get in. But basically this gate was by a guy called Callum Stirling, and it was kind of one of the first things they did as part of that. And I've always wondered why it had such a nice gate, but it actually makes sense that it was actually kind of built by, so it was a project by the Opera, the Whiskey Bond and stuff like that. But I'm going to boost inside because the workies they're going for it. So I will enter in to just the treasure trove, basically, of a lot of hard work, I guess, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just such a nice space, man. I really, so basically the space started off in 2012, 2013 as this walled garden, and I'll put up a bunch of photos, right? So up here was this mad painting, and it was I think it was called 157 Days of Summer. 157 Days of Sunshine, it was actually called. I just checked my phone. So there was a big painting up there, and then there was like a container there, and it was to be used for like artist residencies. So it was like to do with the Whiskey Bond and the Opera, and I think that sounds pretty class, do you know what I mean? But then maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, some of the skaters started to use it, and they've just slowly but surely built this incredible, just amazing project, DIY skate park, and it's called the Archie's DIY. And I just want to big up everybody that's been a part of that. Big up Charlie, like, especially just because he's been like kind of the figurehead of it, I guess, and it's just amazing, man, like totally inspiring. So I'm just going to start going round and just looking at some stuff, man. Like, excuse the noise, but I guess this is what happens when you're down in kind of slightly industrial places. So that's a pretty sick cree, man, like really like that. And this sky's a wee bit faded just now, but it was super funky. And so basically what they're doing here, it kind of looks as though it's just all rubbish, but this is going to be the bowl for the skate park. So this is actually kind of like the skeleton in a way, or like the kind of the basis for what is going to be ramps at some point. And it's just mad, like it's just so cool, all the work that they've done. This big TCK is sick. It's been a pretty constant thing here, that TCK, which is nice to see. A classic Mr. White character, which man, like these characters just like totally inspired me when I was growing up, man. Like such a kind of iconic Glasgow graph thing, so just huge big ups to them. Another KI from Kink, which is sick. And Raven, he's another person that's like kind of up and coming, but just really diverse, man. Always trying new styles, which I really like, man. This corner just seems to kind of change a lot. It's always just rotating. I think that's a Wars up there. A wee stack as well. A wee stack. She's pretty sick. A wee thistles. And it's quite cool actually, so I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the video, but there's some mad kind of, there was these mad kind of sculpture-y things that were put here. It's actually like, there's like a set of teeth there, and it kind of goes up, and so they were part of like an installation, and so I'll get the photo up of that as well. Just so you can have a look at that. It's quite interesting to see what this space was kind of being used as before. I really like this wrong one, that's nice, man. Super popping. And this character's really sick as well, man. I like the shading in it. And then this is just like pretty next level in my eyes, but this is like, it's views for ER, and there's just like, for me it's just like classic boom bap graph, man. Like you can't fuck with this shit, man. Like just super technical, like someone who has mastered the craft of painting. Like check that, man. Like the details on this, man, just, and it's just like he just doesn't even think about it when he's doing it. It's just natural. It's just years and years, man. Like been painting like 20 years or something like that, do you know what I mean? Maybe even longer. Just incredible, man. Like, and I think to me that's like, I love seeing this stuff painted, because, and I think that people should, I hope that people are actually coming up and looking at this and like, do you know what I mean? Like checking out these lines, man. Like that to me is really important. Understanding like how this is made up, do you know what I mean? Like these wee bits, I'm just noticing these bits, like these red bits here, I totally bump them, man. Like and it's just graph funk, do you know what I mean? It's what I like to bump that stuff, do you know what I mean? It's just kind of graph tech funk shit, but it's just, as soon as I see that, I'm like, ah, right, that's where I used to see that all the time, do you know what I mean? And it's amazing, man. And then we've got another easy rider here. Eject, man, like, I love these, man. Someone's kind of made a slight faux pas. They've been painting the ground, which is pretty cool, but they've got a wee bit carried away with themselves. And you shouldn't really be messing with other people's walls, but let's not be too strict about it, do you know what I mean? It's just so sick, man. Again, like, just the details, man, like, just the can control and everything, like, it's just sick, man, to be able to get, like, this character. I just think that it's super gallus, man. Like, I would love to see these in the streets. I've actually said to Eject that I really feel as though he needs to start painting these in the street, because this combines graffiti and street art, basically, right? Like, these are kind of, it's still graffiti, but there's like a street art element to it. I feel as though using that kind of pop culture, it's always been kind of graffiti, but it's also very street art, and they're very much the same thing, do you know what I mean? They're very close to each other. They're not the same thing, but they're very similar in a way. And I guess that for me, just having this type of stuff in the street would just be amazing, because people would be like, whoa, yes, man, like, I get it, do you know what I mean? Like, they would just be like, I totally get that, do you know what I mean? Like, I can understand that. And I think I've said it in the previous videos, do you know what I mean? Like, if you're trying to get people to just understand tags, that's a tough sell, do you know what I mean? That's like, I don't know, like, imagine trying to get your granny to like a Slipknot song or something like that, do you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be difficult, do you know what I mean? Whereas if you could get your granny to maybe listen to, like, I don't know, something that's still quite heavy but maybe slightly more musical, do you know what I mean? Like something like Stairway to Heaven or something like that, do you know what I mean? That's still on that kind of side of the genre, but it's a wee bit more musical in a way, right? And I guess for me, graffiti and tags especially are just like the punk rock, man. They're the hardcore, they're the heavy metal, do you know what I mean? That not everybody's going to like, man. Not everybody's going to understand that, and it's almost kind of, it's a misstep to think that people are going to like it and going to understand it. It's just not going to happen. But I definitely feel if you could get this stuff in the street, then people would be laughing, man. Like, even this, man, Ryan, like, this WMD, right, it's just fucking funky as fuck. It's just colourful, do you know what I mean? Like, you can't, that's proper graph, do you know what I mean? But it's like, it's colourful enough that some random person's going to be like, do you know what, I like the look of that brings colour to the place. And so actually what I should probably do as well is I need to take a wee back step here, because I'm pretty sure I've got like an old picture of this wall when it was first painted, or at least pretty early on when it was painted, and so I'd like that to be in it. But it's just cool to see it evolving, man. Like, there's a nice 110. But to be honest, man, like, I could get really lost in the details here. So I'm gonna need to try and just keep it moving, I guess. And so I'm gonna take a walk up now. And I guess maybe it's quite nice to see it from here as well. So this is kind of the overview of it. But I think that, like, this bit up here this is another cool bit, man. It's actually really nice to paint up here. So this was where the 157 Days of Sunshine mural was. You can still kind of see wee bits of it, I guess. There's like the top of a wee tree up there, but I'll kind of start along at this side. So somebody's been very busy straight away I can kind of see a classic kind of brick a brick tag session, which I love, man. Graphically that's sick, man, right? And then this is really cool. This is Above Love Art, and he's another one of my favourites. Just really, really sick, man. I really like his characters. Also a really, really nice guy. So this is by Uzi. Quite a mental fill on that one. And so this spot up here just changes all the time, like it just totally rotates. And another Above Love Art. He's good, man, because he'll just fit into the spaces that nobody else really wants. I'm kind of the same, man. Do you know what I mean? I just find spaces that nobody really wants to take. This bit looks quite ominous because it's just like, I don't know, there's like a whole bit up there, and that kind of freaks me out a wee bit because it's just mad rubble. I wonder if somebody was to kind of hack away at that, the whole thing would fall down. So this is really, really sick from Mimic. His colour choices are just fucking incredible, man. Like, nobody's doing colour schemes like that, I don't think, man. It's just heavy sick. And a wee kind of ghost character with Negative Destination up there. And so this is another spot that features some pretty big rollers, man. That's a Rada 5-star. And aye, man, it's just like pretty gallus to get your name that big, I guess. Another Sky. This is pretty recent, I think. Just solid graph, man. And then Grin, one of my favourite people in the world, needs to be said. Aye, just an absolute boss. Again, just doesn't fuck about, man. Just the most solid letters. And just, he's just done so much shit all over the world, man. It's amazing. Big ups. And then this Kree's heavy sick as well, man. I really like the way the K extends onto the actual kind of the wee box that the skaters have made. I just like that, the way that that's kind of, it's actually using the space to influence the painting. And then I'm just going to get this in, which is just a kind of a mental feat for anyone. But Bluter's probably the only person that would actually go to the effort to do this. Just a mad bastard, like big Burberry fill, blocky, like, madness. But I would say totally worth it, I guess. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's been pretty iconic for this spot, and people are probably always going to remember it. Do you know what I mean? Just one of those things that was probably a nightmare to do, but everybody's going to remember that. So heavy worth it. And then these characters are by Flip, which I just think are fucking amazing, man. Like, I'm excited to see more of this stuff, to be honest, man, because there's not that many people that do characters, and there's not actually that many people or anyone really that's doing kind of characters as letters. And I think that's something that's quite an interesting kind of way to go. So I'm interested to see what else he comes up with. This Joker piece is pretty sick as well. I was looking at this the other day. There's just certain things about it, man. It's kind of like, it's like an old English font or something like that, but again, like, see the way they are, extends out. That's just fucking sick, man. There's just something about the balance of it all. And I think the way that the R kind of kicks out, I really like that, man. Just some nice details in it as well, man. Like, aye, it's going to be exciting to see kind of as people progress. And I think these are, by views, I'm guessing potentially his kids. I actually don't know, but if it is, big ups to the kids. Even that though, I was saying this the other day, like, the style on these letters is just super funky. Like, it's just simple, but it's, you can just tell this is years and years of just heavy funk letters, do you know what I mean? Like, something that's just very equipped. A wee scent here. I think this is another thing that's quite smart, like Scent's doing, is he's just really kind of like pushing his dub style, I guess, or like his throw up style, and kind of painting pieces from it, I guess, in a way. And I think that's good because it kind of informs both things, do you know what I mean? Like, you get better at doing your throw up, and then you also get better at doing pieces because you can fuck about and learn new fills and stuff like that. And they're just pretty iconic, man. Do you know what I mean? You're always going to kind of remember that shape. And a big head. And a big head, and beside it is a trippy, which is brand new. Accolades to Panda. Whoop whoop. Aye, this is someone new. And I just really love it. I actually really love that fill. And I think, it's exciting, man. I'm buzzing to just see more people painting. And I think, again, spaces like this are encouraging more people to get in paint. If this wasn't here, so there's another space that's been around for like 20 years, and people have painted it for people have painted that whole time. But it's very rare that like a person who's not a graffiti writer is going to go there, because it's kind of out the way, difficult to know about it, I guess, do you know what I mean? So this space is close enough to the city centre and kind of close enough to civilization, I guess, do you know what I mean, that people can come here. Also, people can come here and not be afraid, right? Because as much as this is kind of out the way and it's maybe a wee bit sketchy, it's way less sketchy than some of the other places, because there's skaters here, there's like normal people come here, do you know what I mean? Like, other people use this, it's not just graffiti writers. And I don't mean to say that as if like graffiti writers are dodgy bastards. It's just that graffiti writers feel as though they're dodgy bastards because society says, oh, you're dodgy bastards, you shouldn't be painting. So they end up going and finding places that only dodgy bastards would hang about, right? So you're underneath motorways and stuff like that, and the only other people that use that type of space are like addicts and stuff like that. And I guess, like, again, I'm not saying addicts are dodgy bastards, but there is certain kind of behaviours and aspects, I guess, do you know what I mean? If you're out in the middle of nowhere underneath a bridge somewhere, do you know what I mean, you don't really know what's going to happen. And as a guy, I'm probably not going to be that afraid, but if I'm like a young girl that's just getting into painting, I might not want to go and hang about under a tunnel where I don't know who's coming down or whatever, do you know what I mean? Some random person comes down that I don't know who they are, and I'm all of a sudden I'm on my own. Patch that, do you know what I mean? That's not, it's not a nice thing, even for young men, do you know what I mean? Like, I know there's young boys that are like 14, 15, do you know what I mean? They shouldn't be having to go to mad sketchy places, do you know what I mean, where anything can happen to you, basically, do you know what I mean? There needs to be some kind of public space where this stuff can just thrive, because that's when it gets interesting, because that's when it isn't just people who can overcome that fear. Because I guess there is a bit of a fear, even going to a skate park, right? Skaters know this, right? Going to a skate park is a scary thing, right? There's like 20 grown men skaters, right? And even by grown men, I mean like 18, 19 year olds, right? They're all sitting, KG is the perfect example, right? So they're all sitting, tanning half bottles of wine, smoking joints, and it can be intimidating, man. They're all just sitting and looking at you going like, what's this wee guy up to? And the same thing happens with graffiti writers, do you know what I mean? Like, we look and we assess, and we judge to an extent, do you know what I mean? And I think that that's an intimidating process to go through. It's maybe a natural process that has to kind of happen, but I think that there's a balance to be found between not losing the kind of integrity of these cultures, right? Because I think the integrity is really, really important. I think you need the integrity of the culture, and there needs to be some kind of knowledge being passed down, and kind of etiquette and rules to an extent. I mean, not really rules, but just etiquette and values, basically, right? There's certain values that graffiti holds and skateboarding holds, and I think they should be valued and respected. They can be challenged totally, and new values can be brought in, but it has to be a kind of natural process. But I also think that there kind of has to be more accessibility, do you know what I mean? We can't just take for granted that everybody can just happily walk down into some abandoned, I don't know, like an abandoned kind of, this place looks kind of inviting to me now, do you know what I mean? So I reckon most people would come down here now, but you need to understand that it didn't used to look like this, do you know what I mean? And it wasn't very inviting. And so I guess that for me is just an interesting point of where we're at just now in Glasgow, and I guess the world. I think there is these conversations that are taking place of accessibility, diversity, equality, do you know what I mean? Conversations have been going on for years, but I think now we're actually at an interesting point where there seems to be more representation for certain kind of groups within society, and that's when it starts to get interesting, I feel, because when I feel as though those ideas have been kind of butting heads with each other, but now we're at a point where we can actually synthesize the ideas together, and I think that's cool. And I think we're at that point where things are going to start coming together in a really nice way, and I think this place is a perfect example of somewhere where that can take place, do you know what I mean? And I think we should be encouraging more spaces like this for communities to just explore one another's cultures together, do you know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be behind a fence and then there's a guard and you have to pay for it. Nobody controls this, nobody's in charge. Like, I bigged up Charlie earlier on, and he's like, nah man, like, everybody built this place, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not in charge, I'm just here, I just want to help this place. And I think that's it. You need leaders that are willing to lead, but very, very loosely, and allow other stuff to happen, and allow other groups to come in and use the space, and just kind of cross-pollinate, do you know what I mean? So I think that's when understanding starts to take place, when you, like, sharing space and stuff like that it's a really, really good way of, it's just a really good way of coming together, I guess. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. When I'm kind of articulating it this way, I'm thinking that's such a beautiful thing, because imagine there's something about these spaces that are autonomous, right? No one controls them, which actually enables, there isn't a hierarchy here, do you know what I mean? Like, the skaters have kind of claimed it, but the graffiti writers are kind of involved in it as well. And then I was down the other day painting, and there was like loads of mums with their young children coming down to like ride their scooters and skate and stuff, and they were tidying up as well. And it's like that's totally mixing like different groups and stuff like that together, and it's probably easier to do that in a space that isn't controlled and you don't have to pay to get in. And because I get it, man, I'll go, like, a mum will go in and pay somewhere to take their kid, but I'm not going to go in and pay somewhere to just fucking hang about with kids. Like, that's not going to work, do you know what I mean? But this space is free, and there's a common vision, I guess, do you know what I mean? Or at least there seems to be a common value. And I think creating spaces where there's values at the heart, I guess, but they're almost unspoken, you can just sense them. And that kind of attracts, so it's called a strange attractor. Like, the strange attractor of this place is probably because it's free, do you know what I mean? And it's free in a monetary sense, but also free in the sense of do what you want down here, do you know what I mean? Just try and have a wee bit of respect. I wrote a thing once, right, because people were setting fires down here, and I wrote a thing once that basically said the price you have to pay for freedom is that some person or whoever, I was going to be super stereotypical there and say some wee guy, right, but whoever, right, some old woman can come down and set fire to it, but that's the price you have to pay for the freedom to create the stuff that you want to do. And I think that is exactly the same as what it's like with graffiti. The price you have to pay for being free to paint wherever you want is that the council are going to paint over you, that people are going to complain about it, but it doesn't matter, Jane, because you're free, you're getting to do it, man, you're painting, and it's class. And that's why I love this space, because it just it just speaks exactly what I feel about my own practice, and it's just embodied the practice that and the values that I feel. And it's curious, man. I don't know, I'm curious to see if anybody else feels the same way about this space, and maybe they just feel it, maybe they don't actually know how to say it, but I'm sure that the people that come here know the feeling that I'm talking about. And we're just heavy lucky to have it, and long may it continue. And so now I'm just going to head into the other side of this bit, and this bit's probably like another reason why this spot is so good. So having the skate park over there is amazing, but we also have this space on the other side, which is kind of became one of Glasgow's halls of fame. And a hall of fame in graffiti is a space where people come and paint their best work, or at least that's what it's intended to be, I guess. But this again is just like it's an autonomous space, so nobody's in charge of this. This is just totally freeform. People just come here and paint. And the kind of thing, it's a wee bit it's a debatable thing, because a lot of, like, obviously people need to start painting somewhere. So a lot of people will come to these spots because it's kind of like a chill spot, but there's maybe a wee bit of a debate between like what is a chill spot and what is a hall of fame. And kind of as I go along, I'll maybe explain the difference, I guess. Do you know what I mean? So there's certain things like doing a big production here is encouraged, I guess. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is a space where the walls are big enough that you can do like a big production with your crew or your friends, whatever. But I do understand that people also need to have somewhere to practice, and I think that that's just really important. I guess maybe for me, I would think that the walls in the skate park maybe change more often, so that's maybe more a good place to practice, whereas in here's maybe a place to showcase the best work. But again, there is no rules in this shit, so, well, it's not really true. There is kind of unspoken rules, and sometimes they're actually spoken as well. So an easy rule to kind of live by is don't paint over somebody that you don't think you're better than, because that just keeps it simple. And if you're really honest with yourself, you probably always know that, do you know what I mean? Or don't paint over somebody you're not better than, or you're not at the same level as, do you know what I mean? If you can't do better, then just leave it. And I think that's a good way to live. So let's kind of start looking at some of this stuff. So this is just mental from Bluter. Probably one of the most interesting painters in Glasgow just now, I would say, and if not the most interesting painter. It's amazing. I've actually known him for years, and it just surprises me how much, like, I was going to say it surprised me how much fucking creativity he has, but it's more like how different he is. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I'm not surprised he's creative, but I'm just surprised at his confidence to be so different. I admire it so much, because I've spoke before about, in this city we can be quite harsh about stuff that's different, or we can be quite harsh about people trying new things. And I think this is just somebody that's just going for it, man, and they're just not fucking about. And it's just it's really, really interesting to see, like, even just the way of the mulch, like these wee bits with the mulch, man, it's just confident, do you know what I mean? It's just like, this goes here. And I guess a lot of it's pretty experimental, I would imagine, but it's just really sick, man. Like, even this wee thing, man, like, wee stacked up thing, it's just really sick. And then so we've got these wee kind of walls here that, I guess these are kind of like the practice walls. Again, kind of glass on the floor and stuff like that. There has actually been the Glasgow cleanup group have been here to tidy up, which is fucking fair play, man. Like, I mentioned that in the last video, that we're kind of forced to go to these spaces, and I don't really want to get hung up too much on that kind of debate, but I do think that graffiti writers should definitely try and have respect for the spaces that they're painting in. But you also have to understand that when people are told what they're doing is bad, there's a labelling effect where you then think, well, fuck it, people think I'm bad, so fuck it, I'll just be bad, right? And that sounds kind of immature or whatever, but to me, I can understand the dynamic, do you know what I mean? It's dead easy to be like, fuck it, who cares about fucking littering, do you know what I mean? Because, aye, the place is a riot already. So, another bet, 365. Which I really like. There's actually some really cool stuff up here, so I'm going to jump up and get to it, man, because it's totally worth it. So, a wee bit of exploration. There's an egg, dog eggs, which was probably my highlight, or one of my highlights of the the first lockdown. I just get totally caught in a tree there, which fucked me up. So I dog eggs. And then this bluter, which is really sick. Again, showing that there's a lot of potential. Like, nobody's bothered their arse to come up here, really. Well, a few people have bothered their arse, and it's actually amazing, right? Because I've just noticed something across there, which I knew was up here, but I've just seen it again, and I'm like, yes. So, a good kind of segue is, there's certain types of people, right, who are going to explore and try and find different spots, right? And they're going to make use of the space that other people don't. So here is a very, very early olive by Negative Destination. And here is a few more kind of early incarnations, I think, of Negative Destination. And I think, to be honest, I wasn't actually talking about him when I was saying the thing about sort of finding different spots, although he definitely does so. But what I've noticed, which I'm actually thinking he might have painted over something, so I think he actually might have painted over something that was pretty class, but it doesn't matter because it's over here anyway. So this is by one of my favourite graffiti writers in the world, and it's actually, to be honest, it's kind of debatable whether he's a graffiti writer or not, although looking at this you could say, how the fuck is it possible for him not to be a graffiti writer, because he clearly is, right? But I discovered 45 RPM like back in like 2004, 2005 I think. And I want to show kind of like some of his earlier work here. So I'll flash a few things up just now, and aye, just these characters. There was this thing that him and, so he paints, he's from Bristol, and he paints with a guy called Rich T, and they had this thing which was like, I think it was called Alan, and it was like an onion. I think it was a character that Rich T drew, and I don't know, man, they just drew mad stuff, and it really, really inspired me at the time. I just found that amazing. And I think he's probably got one of the best throw-ups in the world, man. Like, you always see it on like throw-up Instagram pages and stuff like that. It's just super, super funky, man. But aye, he does loads of characters, so it's amazing. And again, man, like this freak up here, he's took the time to come up here and find the spot. And I think that deserves credit, man. Like, a lot of people just come in and just take the easy route, man. And so I'm back on ground level now, and I'm just going to start showing these round the walls, because aye, there's a lot to see here, and it's just, aye, it's pretty amazing, man. Like, it's super, super sick to see. And I think, so this is by Sai, and then there's a big head. And it's really funny because this big head has actually stayed here for ages now. I think there's been like 3 or 4 different people that have painted on the left hand side, but they've kind of left the head, which is, aye, just having nice, I guess, do you know what I mean? But at the same time, I kind of understand it because it's a big head in the corner, so nobody's probably going to take it out. Like, there's no real need to take it out. I think this is the size of a piece here, so aye, just lucky, I guess. But this by Sai is just like, so Sai does a lot of abstract stuff just now, but when he paints these kind of wild style pieces, I think he just sort of like, I think he just demonstrates his ability and how good he actually is at graffiti, do you know what I mean? Because I think people can get kind of confused when they see the abstract stuff. They might think like, oh, what's he doing, do you know what I mean? Like, that's not graph or whatever. I don't know, I don't really know if that is what people think. Maybe people love it, I love it, so, but I can understand why it might confuse people. But I just think with this type of stuff, like, again, like, I just love these shapes, man. Like, it's just classic, like, warrior graffiti, do you know what I mean? So like, I can't mind what it's in, but there's someone and he's talking about how his letters are like tanks and stuff like that, and they're kind of like, they're like like there's like arms kind of cocking, do you know what I mean? It's like a gun. Aye, and just these shapes, man, do you know what I mean? Like, everything's ready for attack, everything's sharp, everything's like, everything's primed.
But it's going to take me a minute to get to that point. Looks a little messy now, but by the end of the day, it's going to look real nice. S-A-B-E-R. You know, I mean, there's a lot of math going on. There's a lot of visual math going on, and people don't realize how much math really goes on to do a piece. It's like with our pieces, we like to break them down to as if they're actually in fighting stance. The R leg is cocked a certain way and has parts coming out that'll get you, or when I have certain center points to a piece, I'll guard them with little like spike connector laser things or whatever you want to call them.
Ramel Z did. This one is the armored letter E, and he sort of has his own beliefs about that, and why he arms letters. What, to armor letter? Yeah. Just so it could defend itself, actually, because he says the Christians put a Catholic symbol on the letter, and the only way to destroy a symbol is with a symbol. So in order to destroy a symbol, you have to arm a symbol. And he thinks by arming letters, this Christian symbol will be destroyed. I hate getting into Ramelzi's religion and shit. It's like too deep for me and shit. Ramelzi would smack me for even saying something like that, I think. This is the arrow, which is actually fires, and this is like some type of like maybe machine gun you would have. It actually shoots rays. And this thing is also like a machine gun. And this piece right here, this is like this gauge or hinge. And this thing is supposed to actually do a full 360, so it could even like defend itself from behind or side, or that whatever. If it was actual, you know, if it was real, this would be a weapon. This would be a tank, actually.
And I just think, it's super, super sick, man. Big head's kind of getting a bit of shading. Try to push it a wee bit more. And then I have a nice faker. Probably, I need to say that Mulch background is fucking so nice, man. Like, just the colour scheme works heavy well. But he just doesn't fuck about, man. Just always got it. And I guess I should probably kind of show that it's like, these walls go pretty high. And so, I'm just thinking, I've got a wee bit ahead of myself in a way, because actually what I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of tell the story of this place a wee bit, because this place wasn't really getting painted that much, and I've got some photos from when it was getting painted very, very early on. So I believe that this space was kind of first discovered. It used to be like a construction kind of like storage place where they would keep all their stuff, but then that stopped happening, and they did this thing called the Youth Urban Games here. And so I'll stick up some photos from that. I might even chuck a wee video in just now, right, of the kind of Youth Urban Games. And I just think that like that kind of made people realise like, wow, wait a minute, there's this massive wall somewhere. And then people started coming and painting it, and it's probably been getting painted for about 2 or 3 years now. And it's just an incredible spot. So I just wanted to kind of put that in a wee bit, because it's good to kind of know the history of it a wee bit. And so there's this production here by Sky and Limo, which I think is like the longest running thing here. And it's just incredible. I think it's called The Alchemist. And so I think The Alchemist is in the middle, mixing up some shit. And like, to me, this again is just like a really, really strong example of how good graffiti can be. Do you know what I mean? How far people can push graffiti. Like the details, the colours, everything about this is like really, really incredible. Something that I even really like take a lot from is, see, even just like the background, the very thin kind of, you kind of see it further down, but like there's like a very thin kind of like landscape in the background, and it just works, man. Like it's just really, it just makes sense. And they've just kind of got the knowledge of how to do that. Do you know what I mean? I don't like, for me it's pretty crazy. So if you look at these test tubes, right, that are like pouring the elixir or whatever, there's certain techniques that they've used here to make it look as though it's actually pouring, do you know what I mean? And it's just really, really smart. And even like, even that at the bottom, so it's mixing together, and there's like the vapour coming out of it, do you know what I mean? Like that's, I'm only even just kind of noticing how good that is right now, do you know what I mean? Like that black bit in the middle is like the vapour kind of starting to, when they're mixing together, and then it's rising out, and like, fuck me, man. And it's actually, I guess in a way it's the vapour that's pouring itself. Fuck knows, man, I think so. Like I'm just looking at it now and I'm just like, fuck, that's what it looks like to me, which is amazing. So so much depth, man, and actual like proper fucking art, do you know what I mean? And that's why I get a wee bit kind of, not annoyed, but a wee bit kind of perturbed, which is a word I never really get to use, but a wee bit perturbed at the fact that people don't think that graffiti is art, because this obviously demonstrates that it totally is. Again, this limo piece is just, there's just so much to it, man, do you know what I mean? Like, super, super strong. And they've both got quite a sort of unique style. It's pretty classic graffiti, but it's also, there's like a kind of, especially limo, I would say there's a kind of heavy metal kind of jagginess to it, which I really, really like, man. and I think like you can kind of see different styles for different writers, which is all, like, of course, but I just really like the fact that there's a diversity within that, and undeniably really, really fucking good at painting, do you know what I mean? And then from that to like something brand new. So this actually was the reason that I came today, was because I didn't want to miss this, basically, because I think this is probably one of the most important paintings to happen in Glasgow, right? And that sounds like a big statement, right? But no one's really painting this style, this big, in this way, right? There's something about this, right? There's something that just stands out. There's something. So he posted it up and he said the caption was Kellyanne sniffing some sage, right? And you can kind of see her with her nose there, having a big whiff, and she's kind of scratching and she's sniffing, and there's like sage on either side. And to me this is just kind of bang on like where we're at, or like not where we're at, do you know what I mean? That's like the collective we doesn't make sense there, but this is very on point for like certain kind of Instagram kind of trends that are happening and stuff like that. And I don't mean like within graffiti, although it kind of is on trend, I guess, do you know what I mean? But I mean like culturally, I see people fucking waving sage about on Instagram all the time, and maybe it's just because of the people I'm following, but I found this heavy funny, and I found it like really bang on the money. There's a few other writers that are doing kind of similar stuff where they're commenting or they're critiquing. I don't even know if it's a critique, right? I think it's kind of beyond critique. It's just kind of commenting. It's almost satire, but it's not even. And it's like gently kind of taking the piss or mocking just certain aspects of the culture that we're involved in, and not even that we're involved in, but that is online, basically. Do you know what I mean? There's certain aspects of online culture that I kind of deserve to be mocked a wee bit, do you know what I mean? But in a kind of gentle, funny way. And I think that's a kind of good mocking, because it brings a bit of humility within people, and you should be able to kind of laugh at yourself. And I think that's why I like this so much, because it comes from a good place, I feel, do you know what I mean? It's not trying to bring somebody down, it's just kind of having a wee laugh about it, do you know what I mean? Because it is quite funny that people are cutting about sniffing sage, and I don't know, man, I go for cold showers every morning now, do you know what I mean? And that's mental. Hopefully I would like to see him do a painting about that, do you know what I mean? Because I think that's very much on trend just now, but it's this funny thing because it's on trend, but it actually kind of helps you. So I just love this, man. Bluter is like just heavy going for it, man. And I think the scale of it is incredible. So I will do the scale test again. Me and Big Kellyanne. Heavy chilling. So I'm just buzzing by that, because I think that we're just at a cool place in the city where stuff like this is happening, and I'm just excited because this is like a totally new wave. Glasgow's been very much kind of New York hip-hop influence, which has been amazing. As I said, with the views, I fucking love that type of stuff, do you know what I mean? I love it. With the Psy, total wild style graffiti, I really love it. I respect it. I think it's really important that you have a knowledge of that, because you should kind of understand the history and the lineage and just letter forms and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? I think that's important, but I also really think that the city's going to become a very interesting place when stuff like this starts hitting the streets. And people are not going to have a fucking clue what's going on. They're going to be like, what the fuck is that? But they're going to enjoy it because it's heavy Glaswegian as well, man. Like, there's the humour, the Glaswegian humour is in there, and I just think it's class, man. And so I'll continue down. There was like a big kind of production by DBA, and they've really been using this spot. Like, they've been using it, like, they've been pushing it basically. So Wars is someone that I really like, man. I think his style's like coming on, man. Like, you can see a load of progress, man. I think again, for some people it's just finding time to paint, and I find I need to like admit I'm very, very fortunate because I can paint loads, do you know what I mean? And I'm sure, like, I know Eros, another person who is just really, really sick, man. Like, this is clearly, he's clearly somebody that has sat sketching for years, do you know what I mean? And he's just worked at it. I was very similar in some respects because I didn't really paint, but then I just sketched and I sketched, and then when I came to paint I had a kind of good solid foundation, and I think Eros kind of shows that. And again, he's somebody that's like really working on the details, man, like really getting those lines down, a lot of really nice cutbacks involved in everything. I guess I may as well get this in just now. Another bluter. The man loves a roller. And again, he doesn't make it easy for himself. He kind of seems to want to do these jaggy shapes and curves and stuff like that, and aye, fair play. There's also a Rada and a Wens, I should say, just to get everything involved. And so I kind of onto the next bit. I really like the production that was kind of underneath, or you can see the blue kind of stuff up the top, that was like a full production. I might actually try and get, sorry, I'm trying to actually tuck my shoelace in just now and it's kind of fucking me up. So I might try and get a picture of that blue production because I thought that was really sick, and I'll try and get pictures of that and I'll stick them in here, because that to me was kind of the kind of new wave, although they're actually all pretty established writers to be honest, but just that kind of more of a kind of anti-style vibe to what's going on, and I think that it would be cool to see that. And so here is Monk and Nose. I think Monk again is someone who really interests me because he's really, really good at characters, has a load of good ideas, but he's also pushing kind of these kind of different letter styles, and I think that's really cool for me. It's just somebody who's doing something really different. Nose again, somebody who, as far as I know, is pretty brand new, man, but clearly has a really good ability at painting, man. Like, I don't know if you've ever, like, something that I always want to point out to people is if you've never used spray paint, it's actually really difficult. And just to get these lines, man, like, just super clean, thin, white second outlines, you know what I mean, is really, really sick. And then outer here, another person who's kind of more gravitating towards characters, but is kind of pushing his own kind of letters. And again, like, these are mad letters, like they're no letters that anybody else has really done before, so I think that's cool as well, man. I think it's interesting to see different people doing different stuff. It's a kind of older Fred up there, and another bluter. And I think that bluter's actually so sick. See the way that the 3D has kind of bits in it? Like that bit's almost as if the 3D's kind of falling off it. I love that, man. There's just so much about it I love. And this pledge, again, pretty mental, man. Like, he's managed to get a lot in that film, man. Like, that must be pretty hardcore to paint because it's super confusing to me. So I can only imagine, like, having to remember where your outline goes and stuff like that. But again, man, solid lines, man. Like, someone else that I'm excited to see how he's going to progress. And then moving on to a triple OG. Well, actually, he's not even like a triple OG. Like, Easy Riders, they're all triple OGs, but Themes and AJ Cat, one of the OGs of AJ, which I would say is probably like the the second or maybe arguably the third wave of graffiti in Glasgow, the kind of big wave of, or like the big kind of impact that was made. I reckon probably, just for talking's sake or for the record's sake, I would probably say that like Mac 1, so like Gaz, Mac 1, As 1, they were probably like kind of the first wave. There's probably other people that were involved in that I'm maybe not too familiar with. In fact, there's loads of them I do know, like Squan, Most. Aye, all the proper old school guys, like first wave of hip hop, as soon as it came here, they were all breakdancing, shit like that, right? They were the first wave. And then you had the Easy Riders, so like Acme, Eject, Chi, stuff like that. Second wave, and then third wave, AJ, which is like Theme, Rico, Med, stuff like that. And that's just the way I see it, man. I might be wrong, but for me anyway, that seems to be kind of the lineage. And Theme, aye, has just been super consistent. Another person who's fucking amazing at characters, man, like. But again, another person who I believe is probably quite pushed for time because of just life in general, do you know what I mean? Like, at a certain point, it's very difficult to maintain just living a total graffiti lifestyle, and I just admire the fact that he's just still so good, man. Like, his letters are just incredible to me, so. And I just feel very fortunate to know him as a person because he's just so fucking nice as well. So big ups Theme because he's just a legend, man. And this is just fucking mental. So I'll step back just now because there's another roller that I would like to get in this. So that's by Man. And he's just super famous for rollers, man. Like, doesn't mess about. You go kind of all over the world, you'll see Man on a roof somewhere, so it's cool to see it here. And so just this scheme is just something else, man. Like I mentioned in a previous video that he's just got an ability to just paint very cleanly, man. And just a way with fonts, I guess, right? Like typography. And it's just really sick to see. I really like the fact that people have painted these full sections because they're huge, man. But again, this is kind of these are the kind of level of stuff that kind of a Hall of Fame's probably used for, I guess, right? And then another big head. Kind of messing up the order slightly because the big heads are just tall and long, whereas normal graffiti is just kind of long and small. Although that schem's pretty huge. And this ring, again, this is just, to me, is like ultimate graffiti, right? The colour scheme, every kind of bit of detail in it, like just all the bits, man. Like just knowing to put that blue bit there, to put that there, to put those highlights there, to put the purple in the drop shadow, do you know what I mean? Like just super small details, do you know what I mean? Like that eye, man, like the bit coming off the eye. This is just like, for me, this is just, again, years and years of just doing letters, man. Like that bit there, like I don't know what that is, right? I don't know what these bits are. Nobody knows what they are, I don't think, right? They're just graffiti funk. They just work. They just look sick. The bit coming off the G, the two doodads up there, right? The arrow. everything about it, man, like the fact that there's like so much colour going on, there's just, it's just amazing, man. Like you can't fuck with this shit. And I really want to encourage everybody to to paint and do their thing and stuff like that, but I really think that you should be coming in, you should be looking at this and being like, right, this is somebody that's done this for years, man, like what can I learn for this? Because there's just so much involved in this, man, and it's, just look at how good the lines are, how confident the lines are. It's just, there's just there's a confidence in this that you kind of only get from a certain type of painting. And I'm not saying that everybody has to go and do that, but I think painting under pressure is pretty important, man. Do you know what I mean? Like it influences your style somewhat, and I think that's class. And then going along to this sky again, just next level, man. I was actually here when he was painting this, and I was just blown away by the way that the greens fade into each other and then flip on the kind of web sort of stuff, and then like this kind of stuff on the fill, it's almost like a kind of animal print, and then like the kind of the ball and chain type of thing's quite a sort of iconic graph element, I guess you would say. And then I'll go back here as well because there's another, this one's by Lowe's with a big smiley face, and then this is actually really, really sick. And so I don't really want to give too much away, right, but this character is done by kind of one of the super early Glasgow graffiti writers, like potentially kind of second wave from what I was saying earlier, do you know what I mean? Like I think potentially kind of second wave, but probably not very far off first wave, to be honest. And I think even to try and differentiate between like kind of first and second wave is maybe a pure stretch. And so I just love to see this, and I love the fact it's a character as well. Like I'm just super hyped on this, and I would love to see more because it's just super classic graph, like old school looking characters, man. And then we're into kind of second wave again, Easy Rider, Steez, the big Jackie getting in about it as well, which I really like. I'm not sure who Jackie is, but she's went for it here. And so again, this is just like kind of classic wild style graffiti where there's just super details, man, like cutbacks galore. And that's kind of what I've been pointing out every time I'm zooming in. I'm kind of zooming into the cutbacks because it's something that just kind of sets off these paintings really well. And this is another views, which again is just mad, man. Like pretty crazy colour scheme on this one, but again just a lot of detail, man. Like that wee flick there, that wee flick going down, you can't really, so these are just lines that you can't really fake, right? You've only got one shot of them, especially on a kind of, God, I don't even know how many colour fade this is, right? But on a mad fill like this, you can't really mess up your outline. And so it's just amazing to see all these like really sick lines. And then this one, the Gad, which which I just love, man. I really, really love these letters. Like, if I was to do letters, these are the letters that I would want to do. Like, see, even knowing to put the wee bit of the D down here and just have it as a thin line, and like you can kind of see it on, well, you can see it on the A and the D there. That to me, that's just a super fine wee detail that, like, I hadn't even really noticed that before, but I'm noticing it now and I'm like, I fucking love that, man. Like, see the way the G's squished and stretched, but it still looks fucking amazing. Like, being able to kind of squish and stretch something, like being able to kind of, being able to do that is just so sick, man. And to be able to maintain the fact that it looks like a good letter, and you can notice when a letter isn't in proportion, right? But he's just managing to get his letters, he's like squishing and pulling them, but he's maintaining the proportions in them, and that to me is just something really, really sick that people are able to do, and he's bossing it just now with it. And I just really, really love his letters just now. I think they're class. And then a wee memorial here from Eject for the breakup of Daft Punk. Pretty legendary in their creativity, I would say, and I think it's a kind of fitting tribute for them. I think they would enjoy this, right? Again, personally, I feel as though this should be in the street, because why is it hidden away, right? This whole bit is amazing, right? This is like an outside art gallery that people should be able to come and visit, but there's a big gate that you need to climb through, right? So maybe not everybody's going to come and see this stuff, but imagine, I don't know, put this in the lighthouse, right? Put this in Goma, and people are going to be loving it, man. People are going to be like, yes, this is so sick. Like, this is of the moment, and that's the power of graffiti and street art, is you can comment on something instantly and just check it out, man. Like, the details on this, man, like the fact that that's breaking away like that. And again, this is something that's painted for years, right? So he understands how to make this stuff look good. He gets it, and I've got like the utmost respect for this type of stuff, because this is just the type of stuff that you just learn over years, and I just really, really appreciate it. And I would just love to see it, like, I would just love to see that in the streets, man. It would make me so happy. Imagine walking down Sauchiehall Street and you just see that, you'd be like, fuck, man, yes, man. Imagine all the people taking photos in front of it. Like, it would just, and photos, people taking photos of things on the everything, it doesn't really matter, but there's just something about it, man, that's just class. And I would love, honestly, I want you to see my face, right? Because I would love to see that in the streets, right? I would be like, fuck yes, like, I'd be so buzzing. There's a video I made once and I saw something for the first time and I was like, fuck yes, like, and that's what I want to be like, do you know what I mean? That's what I want. I want people to be able to enjoy this stuff, do you know what I mean? Because I love it, man. Like, I buzz off this stuff so much, and everybody should be able to get that stuff. So please, Eject, paint the streets, man, because nobody's going to stop you doing this, I'm sure of it. And see, if they do, show them this video and say, look, man, this guy loves it. This guy pure loves what I do, and I was just doing it for him because, and I was doing it for everybody else that's going to love it. I promise you, it'll be sound. Well, that's my thoughts anyway. I can't be held liable for anybody getting in jail, but honestly, I really don't think, how can they jail you for that, man? Like, imagine that. Fucking phone Daft Punk and say to them, yo, I've just been jailed for painting you in the street of Glasgow. Can you help me out? And they'd be like, aye, sound mate, don't worry. They'll post it on their Instagram or something like that, and you'll get like bailed out rapid. Bye. So this is a pretty epic sort of, a pretty epic coming together, I would say, of maybe, like, I would, it's mad because I'm getting hung up on this kind of generation thing, right? But TCK, so if you've got like FCK, which is like Mac 1 and AS 1, and then you've got ER, and then you've got AJ, then you've probably got like WMD and TCK, right? Kind of at the same era, right? So WMD, TCK coming out at the same time, and I think that like TCK have managed to just consistently just keep painting fucking just badass pieces, man, do you know what I mean? And I really like the fact that they're now painting with this next kind of, this new, even newer generation, a much more newer generation, but the newer generation that are really pushing themselves to kind of, just soak up the knowledge of those that have came before them. And I think for me there's just something really, really sick about that kind of transfer of knowledge. You can see that kind of, you can kind of see, I don't know how to say it, I don't know if it's FIO or FIO or FIO, but FIOs, I guess I'll just say FIOs. FIO crew is like soaking up the knowledge of the people before them, and I think that's a smart choice, man. I think that's a good decision to make, man, because you can then add your own flavour to it, and you can see that these aren't exactly the same, but you can kind of see there's a bit of influence there, but it's still got totally a unique flavour to it, and I think that's amazing, man. I really rate it a lot. Also, I just really fucking rate this TCK so much. The kind of love heart arrow kind of thing, especially the way they're chopped, like they're just like severely kind of, and it's funny, I've actually been thinking I need to get my arms involved in this, because I kind of speak with my hands, and like just the way it pure chops there, like that within itself is just, there's just a lot of goodness in that. These three lines here, again, you could kind of see that on the 45 RPM thing, like that flick at the top. These are all just kind of graffiti motifs, right? The way that the T kind of kicks is very reminiscent of like sort of priest stuff that I see, like I was speaking about that in a previous video. Like there's a lot of influence within graffiti, there's a lot of repetitive kind of motifs that get repeated, but that's the same in all art, right? And I think that's actually what's so beautiful about this, is this is what makes it art, man. There's total just like, there's a continuation of styles, and there's a reinterpretation of styles, and that's what's so fucking beautiful about it, man, is every single person can take the book of graffiti, read it all, do you know what I mean? They can read it all, get inspired by it, and then rewrite it for themselves. And I just love that. Everybody has their own arrow, do you know what I mean? Fuck it, I'll put it in, do you know what I mean? I'll put it in, everybody knows it, but if you don't know it, I'll put it in, right? Everybody has their own arrow.
The arrow. Everybody's got their own arrow. I like that though. Various arrows. Some guys have on the letter arrow. That was like connection. Some people had different arrows just going right through their pieces.
The funk is here, so you can move. We want to make your body move.
And that's just, to me, is like, that's just amazing. There's another wee above love art here. And so like this space, there's a few wee more bits up there which I'm going to go and show, because they don't really get shown very much, but this space is just something really special, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just amazing. I'm actually getting a wee bit of a sore throat because I'm getting quite hyped about this stuff as I'm talking about it. So, but I just love it, man. I just feel very lucky to know about this space, but I also feel pretty sad that other people don't know about it, and that other people haven't been able to experience it, because this space changes like every week. Like since I started making this video, right, there is now like 4 or 5 different people here who are painting or about to start painting, and that to me is like, that's sick, do you know what I mean? And so this is a big 45 RPM piece, which doesn't really get seen very often, so I want to get it in this video, and I think it's pretty sick that it's still here again, right? So that's what I'm talking about, those lines. And these are lines that have been in existence in graffiti since the beginning almost, and these are very early, like the dots, the drips, the wee star, kind of triangle star thing, like a 3D star. I don't even know what you describe that. Sometimes I worry that I don't know like the right terminology for it, do you know what I mean? But it doesn't matter, man. If we get hung up in terminology, then I don't know why, it's just a waste of time. But I quite like it as well. I like the fact that it's people are super geeky about it, and I think that's cool, man. I think people should be geeky about it. But aye, there's just so much to this, man. And there's a wee Rich T shout out. That was the guy I was speaking about earlier on. So I just feel really lucky to kind of have this in the city. Again, I would love this to be out in the streets, man. But I guess it's good that it's here because it's been preserved, because it's behind these bushes and stuff like that. And this is where it kind of starts to get a bit gnarlier. There used to be a mad hut here, but I think it got set on fire. There's a UC over there, which is like Celtic graffiti. And that's a kind of like sort of topic that gets debated quite a lot just now, but the way I'm seeing it is it's painting, and I think that's all that's really important. You're starting to see it evolve now as well, and I think people are very quick to judge, but really we should be seeing it for what it is, and it's painting. And I think that to me is, I just want to say that, I guess, Jane. That to me is an important thing, right? No matter what you think about football or who you support or who you don't support, people are painting, Jane. Young guys, old guys, whatever guys, Jane. People, right? Humans are painting. And that to me, that's being creative, and that's all that matters, do you know what I mean? Because that's the seed within this culture, is that these people feel as though they want to go and paint, do you know what I mean? And so it doesn't matter what you want to paint. See if you feel the desire to go and paint, that's good, man. I'm for that, do you know what I mean? I'm for people being creative. I think there's another RPM over here. A wee throw up. Looks as though it's been dogged slightly, but it's been here for a wee while, so it's kind of to be expected. Bye, pretty sick. I'm totally in the bushes now. There's a thing over here that I really like as well. Which is this character. Again, it's been kind of dogged slightly, but aye, I just really like that. 2019. So again, a fine vintage. And that's pretty abstract there as well. Pretty industrial looking. There is kind of one last thing that I want to get before I kind of finish this video. And it's down here. In fact, there's two of them, so oh fuck, but it's worth it. So these are just amazing, man. Like a lot of just really nice mark making, I guess you would say. A lot of it kind of roller paint, but then also kind of combining spray paint. It's like a contemporary painting, man, right? Like it's just really sick. And then there's one last one here as well. And so this one again, from 2019. And I guess this spot has been painted so many times, like the actual main bit, but this has been here since 2019. And I guess that kind of shows if you're willing to walk up into the bushes and go to the very, very back, then your shit's going to last. So if that's kind of what you want to do, then fair play to you. I just love the details in this, man. Like, just sick. And so that's it. That's this space. Pretty amazing, man. Like, and the reason I decided to come today to do this is because a couple of weeks ago I was speaking to 3 people in here, and they're from the opera. So this building here is the Scottish Opera building, and they basically explained to me that this space, they have bought this space now, and they're going to be using it for events over the summer. And I asked them, like, well, like, what do you think about people still using it to paint? And they're like, nah, definitely not. And I was like, well, this space has kind of became like quite a sort of landmark space for our culture. And I guess if opera was a culture that was from the streets potentially, and it was maybe slightly less established and less supported, I wonder if there was maybe kind of like street performers or street opera singers, do you know what I mean? If there was people singing opera in the street basically, right? And they found an area that they liked to do it, and they cultivated a space where they wanted to sing opera, and people would come and see them sing opera there, and people would come and take photos of them singing or videos of them singing. I wonder how it would feel if another arts organisation came in and said, look, really sorry, but we've actually bought this space now, so you need to boost. And I don't know, I guess that's maybe a wee bit of a stretch, right? They've actually been here for ages, so I get it. I mean, maybe they've had their eye on this space for a while, but for me, I would really like to see in society some kind of way where high culture, I guess, do you know what I mean, and low culture can coexist and actually work together. Because if you've been around recently, do you know what I mean, you're going to understand that all culture is under threat, do you know what I mean? All culture isn't viable, basically, do you know what I mean? If you read what the politicians believe, then no culture is viable. We all need to learn to code, basically. And I think that, to me, it's just a shame that we can't try and learn to coexist, and that somehow certain culture is prioritised over others. And I think, thankfully, I'll give them their due, right? I'll give the opera their due. I don't think they're going to paint over it, right? So I don't think it's going to be like a decimation of our culture. I just feel as though we're going to not have access to the space that we have kind of created, do you know what I mean? And I say created pretty loosely, because all we've done is we've just used the space, do you know what I mean? We have just reappropriated this space for our use, do you know what I mean? And I think that should be encouraged within the city. People should be allowed to, it's the space across the road, right? So where the skate park is, the funding that they got for that was part of a scheme called stalled spaces, where if a space has just been lying empty for ages, the council will give you money and you can bring it back to life. And what is all this, do you know what I mean? What is all this if not life, right? And actually what I will just get involved now, right, is these sculptures in a way. And so this is actually someone I know, it's his dad, I believe, who was building these. And basically this was all just kind of rubble here, and this guy has came and he's built these kind of sculpture kind of shapes, and this one over here is slightly more established, so I'll kind of show you that. This one's got a bit more kind of life to it. So what he was doing was actually kind of planting, do you know what I mean, and kind of turning it into like a little garden. And I think that's interesting because that kind of echoes back to what I was saying about next door, is nobody's in charge of this space, and nobody's in charge here. So if a guy wants to come and build mad circle sculpture garden things, and he can, because it's just do it yourself, do you know what I mean? So it's the DIY. When I put up the video of the Kingston DIY, I wrote a wee thing for it, and I basically said that I want to encourage all sorts of DIY things, right? So not just DIY skate parks, but DIY art galleries, right? DIY anything you can think of, man. DIY theatres, DIY concert halls, do you know what I mean? This could be a DIY concert hall. Why did they need to take it off us? Why did they need to say, no, we're having this, you can't use it anymore? And I know why, because they're making money off it, right? And when money's involved, you need to protect it, because it's a fear-based mentality, right? Because you're afraid of losing the money that you're investing into it. But see, the skaters, they don't give a fuck, man, because do you know what they're actually doing? They're crowdfunding everything. So it's not actually their money, it's everybody's money. And see, if everybody chips in a wee bit, then it's a lot easier to fucking go, I chipped in a $5. Oh, so what? Some wee guy burnt down a ramp. Oh, I'll chip back in, do you know what I mean? It's a collective thing, right? And I guess for me, that is the reason I love this so much, is because that's the template for a better society, right? And I need to watch, because I'm getting a bit self-indulgent here, where I'm just making this video about kind of the views I have about the world and how it could change. But I think it's a very, very good example, and I want to use these videos for something a wee bit more, because I think it's important. I mean, I think it's important for people to realise that graffiti is important, because it is actually a demonstration of an alternative reality, right? People say don't write on the wall, people write on the wall, do you know what I mean? Is it a bad thing? I don't know, man. Like, if you want to argue that this space is a bad thing, if this is bringing, what bad is this doing to society? I really don't think it's doing any bad, right? If anything, this is, I don't know, man, at least like 50 people that have, like, man, even more than 50 people that have came and they've demonstrated like their own creativity, which is fucking amazing, man. Like, we should be encouraging that, we should be supporting that. But I think it's actually interesting, because I'm kind of requesting support, but I don't even think we need like the support of an organisation or anything like that. I think we just need to be kind of left to do our own thing. And it's a shame, because I would hope that an organisation like the Opera, who I actually think do really good work, and I understand that they're trying to get into communities and stuff like that, they're kind of, from my point of view, they're missing a trick here, and they could allow this space still to be used, and they could understand that we're not animals, we can still coexist, do you know what I mean? We're just human beings that want to paint, do you know what I mean? And I think that's a bit of a misstep. So I'm really, really happy that I've got to make this video. It's funny, I'm going to go and check out what's getting repainted, and I might try and get them in the video, but I won't probably be able to get them two in the video. But it's cool to kind of see that this thing is changing again, as it should be. It should always be changing. Things should always be changing, because there is no point in things just staying the same forever, because that's just boring and bland. So big ups all the DIY people, and big ups all the writers and street artists and just everybody that's just got involved. So cheers for checking this out, and hope you enjoyed it. So this is like a new thing that's getting painted, so you kind of understand the complexity of somebody's sketch, I guess, and how confusing it can be. So there's just all sorts of lines, and to me it just looks like mad lines, but to the person that's painting it, it's obviously, there's some method to the madness. And then here's another thing that's getting repainted. And so it actually looks quite savage at this point, because it just looks as though it's been totally destroyed. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back down, and I'm going to get the finished pieces so you can see the difference. And so I've come back down a couple of hours later, and they've got some fresh funk. Another tile builder, which is just sick. And I guess it's a kind of good way to show you like how quick something can change, how different it can look. And I guess it's just, I don't know, I'm just glad that I'm able to come into places like this and actually see stuff being created and see stuff change. It's interesting. And so I guess I must have jinxed it basically by saying the big heat is going to stay forever. But happy to see that it's getting taken out by a full big wall, man. Somebody actually using the space, Fume's going for it, so aye. I've came down slightly too early to get the finished piece for this one, but that's just looking class. And so I'm slightly too early for this one as well, but as you can see, it's pretty fucking mental.
Like, they were the cheapest ones I got off eBay.
Another just huge thing, which is sick to see.
Yeah, I know the restabilizer bar.
And so that's the end of it for the Archies and this big bit, which I think people call Cowcaddens. So aye, that's the end of the video again, and just wanted to get that last wee update in. So aye, cheers for checking out, and I'll be back soon with another video. If you've got any places you want me to check out, give us a shout and I'll get it done. So aye, cheers.